no, as a young person, I do not feel safe in Nigeria. As a person with disability, I feel even worse in Nigeria. I know a lot of people who have been robbed recently, and I think that's currently one of my biggest fears. To actually achieve peace, we need to be a bit disruptive. So I know someone that's been arrested because they were involved in the last protest that happened, the End Bad Governance protest.
Express every thought, every motive, every opinion. It all matters here. Expression is not a pattern of the weak. It is strength at its peak. So speak up.
Hello viewers, welcome to a new episode of The Freedom Mic, a space for fearless conversations about justice, freedom, and the power of expression. I remain Funke Adeoye, and on the show with me today is an amazing young woman. She is a poet, a spoken word artist, and disability rights advocate, known for using her art to challenge stereotypes and raise awareness for causes like social justice, mental health, and disability inclusion. Welcome, Pelemo Nyajo.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you with us this morning.
Same here.
Thank you. So before we get right into it, I have some fun questions for you to answer. I want to know how much of a patriotic Nigerian you are. So I'm curious to know, how many states have you been to in Nigeria?
So I think so far I've been to about 6 states.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. Well, mostly because my mom is protective and traveling by road is not super accessible. So that's something I need to figure out, but yeah, so far, yes.
Okay, so but 6 states, that's not so bad. But then can you give us, like, maybe can you tell us 4 states that begin with the letter A and 3 states that begin with the letter O?
Okay. So Akwa Ibom, Abia, Anambra,
Okay.
and Adamawa.
Ooh, that's good. That's good.
And then for O,
Yes.
Oyo, Oshun, and who else has it? Oh my god. My brain is not working.
Should I help you? Ogun. Yeah, I'll show you an Ogun. But yeah, that was a good one. Thank you so much. So one more question. What are 2 unpopular opinions you have about life?
This is so difficult. I don't know if the opinions I have are unpopular, but I think that there are bigger things than work. I think that life is about living. For me, that's the biggest purpose. And if you're religious, of course, you have like your own beliefs, but I think it's about aligning with what God has created the world for, which is to live in community with each other. So every other thing we're doing is trying to create an enabling environment for people to live. So I believe the highest purpose really is living and experiencing the world.
Wow.
So that's the first thing.
Deep, yeah.
Yeah, especially for someone that does like social impact work. It's like, yeah. And then the second thing would be, I feel like sometimes to actually achieve peace, we need to be a bit disruptive.
Okay, I thought you were going to say we need war.
Violence, no.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say we need war. Okay.
We need to be a bit disruptive. I think that sometimes you don't need to be diplomatic to achieve things, which again, because I work in the diplomatic space, is a bit controversial, but I do believe sometimes you need to say things as it is to really move forward.
Wow, thank you. Say things as it is. I think that brings us to our conversation today. You represent a generation that actually says things as they are. I'm curious to know how you found your voice in the civic space. And what moment did you realize that your voice matters?
So for me, I think I stumbled into it by accident.
Your eyes were closed and then you found yourself, like, what am I doing here? Okay.
Yeah, I think doing art for social justice or doing art advocating for people in general was something that came naturally to me, because I first started out dancing. And while I was dancing, and after I had my surgeries, I couldn't dance anymore. I wrote more. So I used to have a lot of surgeries. I was alone. I used to write stories all the time, right? And indirectly, I was advocating for people like me without even knowing I was doing that. And then I got into the civic space through my art. And then I now started doing leadership programs, like with Yali, for instance. And then like, oh, this is so cool. I like this. I like the knowledge I'm getting. And then I continued learning. And then I started getting to positions of leadership. And to me, it was very interesting being in that place, because it's so mystical when you're not there. Like, what's really happening? Who are these people? But when I started getting into places where my voice was being heard, I realized the importance of representation of young people. I realized that there were not many people like me. That's persons with disabilities, first of all, and then young people. So it was very crucial for me to make my voice heard and also carry the voices of other young people in a way that properly represented them, right? So yeah, just moving within the arts and then stumbling into the civic space gave me a place for my voice to be heard.
And what role would you say social media played in all of this?
Well, social media, first of all, provides a lot of opportunities, which there is a shift from how things were to how things are now. And social media plays a very important role. So social media has connected me to a lot of stakeholders. It has connected me to a lot of people who have become integral in the work. It has connected me to the people that I am even working with and for now. And social media has given me a lot of the opportunities that I have. So I think it's very important. But apart from like in the work I do, I think social media pushes narratives and it is ultimately a tool. So if you're able to use that tool for good or for bad, you're the one that has the ultimate choice or power. So social media does a lot, and it has done a lot for me.
I'm just wondering if you've had any sort of pushback because of the work that you do. And it could come in different form. It could come through perhaps trolling, online bullying, or even if not you, maybe somebody you know in your community that has faced some kind of arrest or detention relating to using their voices. I don't know if you've had any experiences or you know anyone who's experienced something like that.
Yes. So I know someone that's been arrested because they were involved in the last protest that happened, the End Bad Governance protest. And we all know how that went. A young person that was arrested. And we all know how that went. They said it was treason, and so it was just a very dicey situation. I personally have not been arrested. I guess because of the work I do in like diplomacy, for instance, I've been able to move a little cautiously, which is not entirely authentic to who I am. Like I said, I believe
so you prefer to disrupt things, like
I prefer to disrupt
okay.
I prefer to say things as they are, and I do speak truth to power, but I understand that it's not by insulting the government that you're going to get any change. There are ways to speak up without necessarily causing havoc. I mean, disruption does not always mean that you're insulting the people in power. It means strategy in how you speak and making sure that you get the most impact out of it. So if he's coming out and talking, you know how the climb is. You're not just going to go and say anything anyhow, right? So yeah, I have known people that have been arrested, but I also know people who have been bullied. I know I have been bullied as well, which as someone who, I think people are really kind to me online, but still there's that dark side of the internet. So the internet never forgets. So you need to, well, I wouldn't say be careful, of course, with your personal information. But then
maybe also develop a thick skin, because
there are going to be people that don't agree with what you have to say.
So I'm curious to know how, if the system has been kind to you in terms of providing support, first as a person, as a young person who uses her voice to speak truth to power, and also as a person with disability. Do you think the legal system provides enough cushion? You know, I mean, you have your digital rights, you have your rights to put out, to express yourself. So if someone comes, bullies you, online trolls, all those kind of instances, do you think that there is enough cushion in the system to provide a protective layer for you as a young person and as a person with disability?
So are we talking about the digital space specifically, or?
I think you can speak generally, yes.
Generally.
Yes.
First of all, as a person with disability, I know that we have the law. That's the Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities Prohibition Act of 2018. First of all, this law is not widely known. And secondly, it is not fully implemented. It is barely implemented, especially in government buildings where, first of all, they're supposed to know this, right? And make sure at least it is enforced in those government spaces. So that's a very huge gap. If it's not being implemented, then there is no cushion, there is no safe space, because what the law is supposed to do is supposed to protect me as a person with disability against discrimination and against lack of opportunity, basically, right? But it doesn't do that for me because it's not implemented and it is not really known. That's the first thing. And then, as a young person in general, I think most young people can speak to this, and we know the climate that we live in. And a lot of Nigerians say, oh, Nigeria is lawless. And even if there are laws in place, they are not being implemented for us to be safe. So, no, as a young person, I do not feel safe in Nigeria. As a person with disability, I feel even worse in Nigeria. And there are certain things that I do not have access to as a person with disability. I mean, I am privileged. So at least mobility-wise, I can access certain things. For instance, with the whole kidnapping, and I know I don't know if it's happened with you as well. I know a lot of people who have been robbed recently. And I think that's currently one of my biggest fears, being robbed, because in my area as well, literally, they did that recently. So in terms of peace and security, that is an area which I'm really scared about. When it comes to our digital rights as well, a lot of persons with disabilities first of all, don't even have access. So before we can even start talking about our rights online, we don't even have access to this, and the world is shifting, right? And then young people, we don't even have the freedom of expression to speak without being held, right? So I think it's not necessarily a safe space for young people in Nigeria, online and in the physical world.
So if you could design a more freer civic space, what's the one reform that you would start with? One, I know there are several. But yeah, what's the one reform you would start with?
I think, first of all, we need to implement the laws that already exist. I'm thinking of the lowest hanging fruits, because there are a lot of things we could do, but a low hanging fruit is starting with what already has been passed. Yes. So implementing the laws, for instance, as a person with disability, if public buildings can have ramps, that's such a low barrier thing that can be achieved, right? So if you can start with implementing the laws that already exist, I think, first of all, it's to give young people the momentum they need to even push for more reforms, and it gives us a stepping stone to move, because if we already have things that have been passed and they're not being implemented, then how are we even going to push for more things or new things? I think a big problem is apathy. A lot of people do not believe that Nigeria even has the opportunity to move forward because of the things that are happening now. So if we can give something to hope for by implementing the laws that already exist, because laws back up human rights, right? Human rights don't exist in a vacuum. So to be able to enforce human rights, we need to make sure that we have the laws to back it up. So I think it's very important, and very, very practically, that's what I would say. Philosophically, I have other views.
Yeah, just one. Just one. So one last question. I want you to give a message out there to young people that are afraid to speak freely. If you want to give a message to them, what will it be?
Something I would say is, the individual affects the collective as much as the collective affects the individual. And this is something that I strongly believe, and something that drives my purpose. So anything that you choose to do will be a ripple effect to what's going to happen in generations to come. And what you choose to do that ripples will also come back to you. So it's a give and take effect. It's nobody exists in an isolated manner. So for young people, I think you should have that in mind, because I think that on social media and everything, we push very hedonistic and individualistic views that we don't see that greater goal, but the collective is the greater. And if we can look to that and understand that we are all connected and anything we do like comes back and goes and it's just a cycle, first of all, that's be grounded in that purpose. And in the way that you move, you need to be informed, because if you're not informed about things that are happening from history, because I've recently started reading about Nigeria's pre-colonial history, and that's like one of the most beautiful things that's ever happened to me.
Wow.
Because you can see how the things that happened before colonialism tie back into the things that are happening now. If you're well informed in that way, you can provide information that is useful, right? So I think being educated about those things and being informed would help you to even speak in a way that provides the impact you want to make. So you need to be informed. You need to know your onions, because first of all, people don't think you know your onions.
Yeah, as a young person.
So you need to know your onions. You need to understand what that does for the greater collective. And you need to be able to speak in a way that creates impact per time. So if right now, what you need to do is completely not be obsequious to what exists and say, I'm going to shift this, and that's what's necessary for the time, then do that. But if you need to be diplomatic, by all means do so, because it is about the impact and it's not about you being right, right? So, yeah, in expressing your views, always remember that, because there's a greater impact in expression.
I feel like you've taken us to the classroom with your final take. But yeah, this has been such an insightful and wonderful session, and I just want to say a very big thank you for the great work that you do as a young person who's out there using her voice, pushing for some of the reforms that I think we need, not just as individuals but as a collective. Thank you for the great work that you do. On behalf of Hope Behind Bars Africa and our partners, the Center for Journalism, Innovation and Development, we have this token for you to just say well done, thank you.
Thank you.
And please keep speaking up, keep using your voice, and of course we hope to keep engaging further. Dear viewers, this is the Freedom Mic, a space for fearless conversations about freedom, justice and the power of expression, brought to you by Hope Behind Bars Africa and the Center for Journalism, Innovation and Development, with the support of the National Endowment for Democracy. Please follow us on our social media handles, subscribe and like our YouTube channel. Once again, I remain your host, Funke Adeoye. Until next time, stay informed, stay brave, and keep your voice alive.
I tried to speak. Now I open my mouth, but only muffled words come out because the society wears me a face mask. And somehow I did hope that it would mask my discomfort too and come forth in two, portraying dual resilience to my caged words and thoughts. How do I communicate when alphabets are forbidden in this continent? It's a taboo. You dare not say a word. Keep shut. If you don't want your life to be cut short through bullet shots or doors locked shut, bridle your tongue, saddle yourself with the responsibility of holding your words. Bustle it in, you're not the only one. Just find a way to cope, there's no ray of hope. Everyone has something to say, but rather than staying at bay, just keep mute. They say refuse to blow the flute of perspectives and narratives, outrightly giving room for legal thieves. After all, they can't be rebuked. No one speaks. For how long will this remain? How long will we rest in the bosom of pain? Is this our lot? We have a lot to say. Why should we cower in fear, silently wiping every tear with tears on our coats, gulping lies coated in glitters, one which litters our intellectual environment? Enough! Enough of holding back, making situations a hard nut to crack. Enough. Enough of hoarding knowledge in a bid to stay safe. That's pretty ironic. We are endangered daily when we refuse to make use of our freedom of speech. If our right to speech is redundant, then we have nothing left of the words our heroes cleft onto. You see, it all starts with a worldview expressed through your word view. Your words express the depth of your wholesome mind, desires you find far-fetched. Look no further. It's all within arm's length. If you just speak up. To the timid boy in Jigawa who wants to make history like Tafawa Balewa. To the zealous soul in Oyo who wants to lead positive change like Obafemi Awolowo. To the quiet girl in Umuahia who wants to change narratives like Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. It all starts with your speech. This wide reach you envision, exterminating division intermediately, wholly and fully. It all starts with your speech. So feel free. Free to yarn, free to express yourself in words you deem fit and nothing fit to deem your light. You see, your mouth is a collection of knowledge, sharp as two-edged sword, cutting into situations and speaking your opinion. Yes, your speech flows over issues like the waves in a beach. You teach and educate the masses, so speak. Here, your opinions matter. Your thoughts shouldn't be whispered under your breath. Your breath of wisdom is needed here, so speak. Express every thought, every motive, every opinion. It all matters here. Expression is not a pattern of the weak. It is strength at its peak. So speak up.